I am not a soldier main. Okay, well, I was not a soldier main before this video. But after 101 days of soldier, I can say for a fact I have played a ton of soldier. How it feels to play soldier has been ingrained into my muscle memory like none of my previous challenge videos. But before I could become the high-flying, lead-sipping patriot that can dominate entire servers, we've got to travel all the way back to the beginning. You see, I never dedicated time to learning the rocket launcher, other than just shooting the ground, winning the game. I came into this challenge with the most basic knowledge on rocket jumping, and I want to get much better at it. Something as simple as knowing how to effectively rocket jump across a map so that I could be the soldier you see, drop into a fight, and leave the enemy in a pile of gibs. And just like my previous challenge videos, I wanted to learn how a soldier thinks, so I know how to take them down when I eventually come back to playing demo. So on July 22nd, 2024, I put down my grenade launcher and shield to pick up the legendary and iconic rocket launcher. During this time, I would be learning how to play soldier, and more importantly, how not to play soldier. Before I go bonking my head on any map geometry, let's talk about what I wanted out of this challenge though. If you haven't watched one of my other challenge videos before, that's okay. I have a sentry waiting outside your door. But more importantly, I usually go into this challenge spending an entire month on Uncletopia while having fun and challenging myself to get better. However, with casual recently becoming bot free for a month, and the community realizing that casual was playable again, I decided to split the challenge up into two parts. The first 50 days of this challenge were spent entirely in casual, experience all the joys the fresh summer maps had to offer. I've just got to mention to you here, if you stopped playing TF2 because of the bots, now is a fantastic time to come back. Valve managed to Thanos snap them all out of existence. Back on track though, the second half of the challenge will be spent almost entirely on Uncletopia. I'll explain why it wasn't entirely on Uncletopia when we get there, but I think you can guess why. I also went into this challenge wanting to stream at least 6 days a week so I could keep on schedule and stick to a routine when playing TF2. So the first day being July 22nd, the midway point being September 10th, and the final day was October 31st, or as we all know it as, Halloween. In each challenge before this, I spent time with each merc, trying basically every weapon they could equip to find out what worked best for both helping my team win and myself have fun. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Soldier is one of, if not the most main merc in TF2. And that means each of his weapons that can track kills is extremely pricey. For those out of the loop, strange weapons that come with orange outlines and text track kills. How it works? Who cares? Number go up, brain make happy chemical. Now, we can both see my subscriber count, so you know I ain't got the big bucks to shell out for every strange weapon in Soldier's arsenal. So, instead of investing in half a Lego set's worth of money into just one strange rocket launcher, I instead bought a strange hat. I landed on a cosmetic that I felt would encompass my playstyle going forward in this challenge. A strange war pig. Instead of having to buy a strange weapon to track my kills, I also just bought a strange part, players killed, and slapped it right onto the side of the hat. So not only could I track my point score throughout the duration of these 101 days, I can now keep track of how many bodies I had to step over to get here. Now, like I mentioned, I wasn't going to be dedicating equal time to each weapon to say I used everything Soldier has to offer, but I was going to try everything I thought could work. Yet, who knows, my preferred final loadout may look different from what the typical Soldier main keeps on hand. And that mindset is what I had towards completing my primary goals of this challenge. Dedicate 250 hours of playtime to Soldier across the 101 days. Stream as much of that growth as possible to keep on track. And finally, learn to effectively move around the map as Soldier. But with that PSA out of the way, let's finally get right into the first part of the video.
Would be so awesome. Would be so cool.
After fumbling around trying to solve technical problems in OBS, I hopped right into casual and enjoyed some time in the freshly dropped summer maps. I was starting off playing just with Soldier's completely stock loadout, adjusting to using his rocket launcher as opposed to my familiar grenade launcher. Now to be honest, a lot of my time spent on Soldier was that time when I could turn off my brain and shoot rockets at the nearest person until I saw the kill feed turn white. Barely a thought to be seen behind Soldier's eyes as my rocket splash damage hits multiple people and the hit sound rings in my empty head. Demo's pipes don't have fall off. If they hit you directly, you're getting smashed for a clean 100 damage. Soldier's rocket launcher on the other hand, does damage based on how far he is from the rocket with ramp up. It's why you see the Soldier in every clip compilation, timing their rockets to land right when they're on top of someone's head. They're trying to dive bomb for maximum damage. It's not intuitive, I know. I think we've all seen the slack-jawed Soldier shooting rockets over and over again, from across the map, hoping his next rocket will kill somebody. Don't even get me started on explaining damage ramp up and explosive fall off, because the most important mechanic to remember when I was playing Soldier was to keep the distance between my rockets and I the same distance as my enemy and myself when playing demo. Thankfully, that doesn't apply to engineers' buildings if you hit them directly, so just tossing some rockets from 10 miles away works well enough. And unlike demo, Soldier can stay out of the range of a sentry much easier while still doing good damage to it. But explosive damage is also kind of funny in TF2 still. Now, if you've ever played CSGO, or I guess CS2 now, you know that grenades can do explosive damage when partially blocked by a part of the map like a prop or some stairs. Paraphrasing a bit, but back before 2020, they worked a bit like TF2's explosions, I think, where the game checked the point of the explosion and some central point on a player model. And in an update later in 2020, they fixed explosive damage to instead check for multiple points across a model to deal some, but not full, explosive damage that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Now, given that CSGO and TF2 were both made in Source Engine, I don't completely know if this is the same bug carried over, never patched for TF2, but that's what it looks like. So you know, Valve please fix. But in most other cases where I try to avoid hitting myself with explosive damage, Soldier comes equipped with what I would call one of the most satisfying guns in the game, the shotgun. Swapping to the shotgun after softening someone up with my primary is something I honestly wish Demo Man had, because it is extremely effective at saving the rocket launcher's small ammo amount on healthier, scarier targets. Not only is it good for saving a rocket or two in a fight, Hitscan is just better at fighting experienced scouts. Soldier shoots scouts back to the spawn room in 1 or 2 rockets without needing full direct damage. The problem comes with experienced scouts who understand that the double jump is incredibly powerful for jumping onto props or even just away from a rocket to avoid splash damage, making the matchup exponentially harder. Skipping ahead in the challenge quite a bit, but look at this quick fight all the way on day 71. I kill a silly little spy who is trying to get our soldier, who dies trying to fight the scout ahead. As the scout finishes off the soldier, I have 1 rocket left. So I panic and fire it right ahead of me, hoping to send him far up in the air, giving me enough time to combo him with my shotgun. But instead, he fakes me out entirely, jumping back onto the raised brick platform, just stuffing my face full of pellets. And using just a shotgun here could have the same results, but it is substantially easier to hit a scout up close with a shotgun rather than missing a rocket and doing no damage. My rocket missed everyone? Jesus. But coming back to the first part of this challenge, these scouts weren't too common in casual, and I've always found the shotgun as a reliable, satisfying weapon to use. Soldier also comes equipped with a shovel for a melee weapon, but 99% of the time you're playing Soldier, you won't be using a melee weapon for a kill, unless you're Trollger. But we'll discuss Trollger much later on in this video. So for now, I swapped this blunted spoon for the 100% crit rate pan. I even managed to get the rare YouTuber crit pan right off the bat too, so yes. I call them spoons. What's a spoon, bro? Finally, I hit the YouTuber crit pan. The pan lives on. Now, I won't be going into detail about every melee weapon, of course. Soldier has a few good ones and a few okay ones, but his rocket launchers and secondaries are the shining examples of loadout variants. So of course, the first rocket launcher I switched to was using the original. Technically, this is the first rocket launcher I switched to, but it isn't actually too different from stock. There's no real special text on this weapon, only the fact that it sways down the middle of your screen. Whereas the regular rocket launcher shoots out from the right of your screen, you know, where the rocket launcher barrel is, the original comes right down the middle of your screen. It was giving me a powerful feeling, like I'm throbbing with power and ready to unload my hard-hitting rockets into the next unlucky merc who crossed my path. But it's nothing special really. Before I could go any further though, I had to ask myself what kind of soldier player do I want to put my focus towards. The role of a soldier in a match can change to meet the needs of the team, if you're playing for the team that is. Team composition is a bit light on demos, heavies, or other soldiers. Play a bit more defensive and stay away from making the risky, aggressive dive bombs. My team has a whole lot of defense and a good medic or a few dispensers. I can be aggressive and push into the enemy, knowing that if things go sour, I can retreat to a healthy defensive line. Sometimes, a soldier can just focus on staying alive by roaming the map and taking only the most advantageous fights, then using a rocket to escape to a safely tucked away health pack. Or maybe I'm just here to smash people with a spoon and get a funny ragdoll when I fail. What I'm saying is that I can learn to play soldier in a variety of ways. He has a flexible playstyle that can be switched up without even needing to swap loadouts really. The generalist nature of Soldier makes him so appealing to a variety of players and playstyles, but at this time in the challenge, I was trying to focus on just being a good soldier who can get reliable kills. So with that bit of insight, let's go back to talking about my time with the original. I paired it with the pub stomping buff banner, which is one of the 4 backpacks the soldier can equip. But for now, let's focus on the offensive bolstering bugle I was using. The buff banner is useless right out of spawn, but after dealing enough damage with it, I get to blow this little brass bugle and give myself and my teammates mini crits for a short duration. Now, mini crits deal a bit of extra damage and don't have distance fall off, which is fantastic if you're hitting shots with a rocket launcher, which I was doing frequently at the end of this first week. When I was pushing into the squishy enemy team, I was leaving a mess for the janitor. And when my team was working together, we were basically farming points off the enemy until we won the match. And once again, the original kind of has a hypnotic effect where just equipping it feels more comfortable to use. And I think that's because it feels easier to rocket jump with. I didn't mention earlier, but during this time, after every stream, I was practicing on a community server for rocket jumping. For those who don't know, TF2 allows you to connect to community servers, which are just servers hosted by people in the community that allow custom game modes, mods, and maps. My purpose for joining them? Rocket Jump Academy. A place to practice on a tutorial-like map for getting better at movement as Soldier. I made it right on through the first 2 sections with ease. This stuff was something I figured out during my small amount of playing TF2. Not to brag. Learning how to airstrafe properly has to be one of the most important skills in all of TF2, and especially on Soldier. Airstrafing is simply letting go of W and using A and D to move, and because TF2 is a source game, that allows for building up speed when combining the right mouse movement and something to propel you with in a direction. Like a rocket. And something I won't go completely into detail with, but getting more consistent with C-tapping was also part of this time spent practicing. C-tapping is just timing your crouch and jump in a certain window of time to reach greater heights as Soldier, unlocking higher parts of a map that are sometimes better to shoot down from. There's a practice area behind the spawn where you can try to reach certain heights and outperform other soldiers, but I wouldn't consider it the most necessary skill to have. And look, it's not the hardest thing to do, but everybody playing Soldier has failed at them now and again. Bumper missed the C-tap? What? Oh, so yes, every day I spend about 30 minutes to an hour trying to finish the entire easy level in one go. Let's come back to the actual time in casual maps though. I was trying my best to rocket jump during matches, and honestly, there was already a massive difference between chilling with music on while on practice maps, and actually rocket jumping around maps during a match and streaming with chat and Discord open. I was trying to use what I had learned to string jumps on different parts of the map together, but I was still not great at my timings, even with the original. That's not to say I couldn't make the jumps, just that I wasn't consistent with making those jumps. I messed it up so bad! Which was important in surviving any time I jumped into a fight. I noticed at this point that when I was taking the risk and jumping in, that I was getting the kill more often, and actually living to receive a medic's warm embrace. But a lot of success from this more aggressive playstyle came from the buff banner, and the confidence to peak that came with mini crits. A competent demo, like the Discord's resident X Soldier main bumper cars, could stand strong and stop a team's push with just a few pipes and stickies.
Okay.
Dude, oh my god.
Hit him with the mama blicky. My solid gold blicky. God, I miss friend.
Then I swapped out my original for something like a stock reskin, but worse. If you're a lover of this weapon, come fight me if you think I'm wrong. I'm the Soldier main, get out of here. The cow mangler was a fun weapon, don't get me wrong. It comes with a slow, albeit powerful charge shot that produces some amazing fireworks. But the fact that Soldier's rocket launcher is so powerful against engineers' buildings should make anyone hesitate to use it. Because like half the time in my games, I was helping the demos on my team to break sentries out of their range. But with the cow mangler, the only real upside was never having to run to an ammo pack thanks to the bottomless reserve ammo. I mean, I guess the charge shot is useful and honestly cool, but to quote myself from day 10 of this challenge, I wonder if I'll get a single clip of this actually being useful. I meant this, because how often outside of maybe Uncletopia's 1000 Uncles does the charge shot disabling a building actually get used in a match? When I was using the cow mangler as just a rocket launcher against someone else, it was fine. Rocket jumping and shooting enemies feels the exact same, minus the chunky model taking up half my screen. But then why bother equipping it really? It's next to useless when fighting against an engineer's nest. And the next weapon I want to show off is actually just in here because it's a meme. I did not want to use it, but then I remembered just how embarrassing and rare it is to see it used in a match. The Righteous Bison is literally the worst damage dealing secondary in all of TF2, and there's no competition. Although I can have fun winning in TF2, some of the most fun to be had is from getting kills with a shitty weapon. I mean, I just hit an air shot with this useless thing, and it had me pointing at my screen, smashing my keyboard trying to catch the clip. But it was only put in this video to advise you not to use it. Only a true soldier would equip it. No, it's not time for that yet. Getting away from a weak, very underwhelming weapon, let's look at what I'd consider a powerful but deceptive noob trap of a rocket launcher. By the end of week 2, I was loading up the beggar's bazooka and overkilling opponents. And overkilling is not an exaggeration. I was loading up all 3 rockets every time I thought an enemy was nearby. If you've played enough Soldier, you know 2 rockets is probably enough to kill most other mercs in close range. So I was commonly making the mistake of loading up too many rockets for a single engagement, which meant I was frequently running back to ammo kits and dispensers. And because you can't have this weapon out while at a dispenser, I had to use a damage dealing secondary, but we'll talk about that real soon. I enjoyed trading the firing speed of a regular rocket launcher for an insane burst of damage though, especially when I was quickly rocket jumping with 1 rocket and then loading up as many as I could before landing on a target. It's also just a flashier way to get a kill to be honest, so in that way, it was a bit more fun too. The beggars was still very good though. Don't let me deter anyone else from using it to blast away an entire heavy. Ending a fight quickly is powerful, and the beggars excels at that, especially if you can time your peaks in fights so you can save yourself health. The lower explosive radius didn't matter when I was unloading all over my enemy team, who were unable to completely dodge such a wide spread of damage. The only real problem with the beggars is how effective it is at range. Sure, it's good up close, where the random spread on the burst of rockets doesn't matter. I found it to feel kinda like a super shotty, but the problem lies in that random degree of variance when it shoots the 3 rockets out. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 3 degrees adds up very quickly when moving in a large 3D space, like a TF2 map, and sometimes even up close that random spread can take effect. I just missed rockets I probably would have hit with any other straight shooting rocket launcher. I mean, look at this terrible luck on day 12.
Oh my fucking god.
That's fine, it didn't happen too often, but it was still annoying when it did happen because I had to accept that I could not completely control this thing. I still found the beggars extremely useful at terrorizing engineers though. This thing was a nest breaker. And I was conflicted sticking to this weapon in order to practice the beggars' unique rocket jumping skills. Some people showcase sinking rockets with it for its fast firing speed. An even more unique overload mechanic, using an overloaded rocket to gain speed in the air. Yet, I could not get used to it. Even after focusing so hard on practicing rocket jumps with a regular rocket launcher, this aspect of the weapon could not click with me. I was finding it useful for getting out of danger quickly, but only when I was using it for a regular rocket jump. But now I want to talk about the shotgun I paired with the beggars. It used to be more commonplace on combo pyro, but now it's just sitting there, kinda seen as useless. Now I will admit, ever since it was nerfed, I thought the reserve shooter was terrible. But even I can admit when I've been wrong, because this thing was actually great to use. When I wasn't overwhelming pyros with a rocket burst, whipping out a shotgun did the same job. And with how much knockback comes from getting hit with multiple rockets, it was not uncommon to combo a burst of rockets with a few shots to finish people off with the mini crits in the air. The lower clip size wasn't making a difference in many of the fights I was winning with it because of that extra damage from air shots. I kept quickly switching to it after firing a volley of rockets because I was concerned that I would leave my opponent with just a few HP left. And yes, this would happen, because the randomly spread rockets would sometimes hit someone with a little less splash damage than I intended. Jumping back to rocket launchers that would actually benefit from my aim though, I went from overkilling people to having to hit most of my shots just to light up the kill feed once. Using the Liberty Launcher was a meme on my stream almost the entire time up to this point in the challenge. Maybe I shouldn't start talking about this rocket launcher by dunking on it, but I'm going to anyways. This thing hits like a toy hammer. The damage reduction really kneecapped me. I don't think you understand me unless you've used it this much as well. I cannot understate how many times I gibbed an opponent who would have not needed an extra rocket if I was using stock. Let me show you what I mean. Look at this clip from day 18 of this challenge. I missed time and undershoot my first rocket on the medic, dealing 44 damage to them. I readjust and land a direct hit on the medic's back with my second rocket, dealing 78 damage. I can see he's still alive, so I know he's under 40 health. He's really 122 down from the 150 HP total, meaning he's actually at 38 health. So I fired a third rocket that hits the medic for 45 and also kills his uber target, the pyro, finally blasting them into tiny giblets. If you've counted right, that's 167 damage done to the medic. Now, don't run away, but we've got to do some math. Okay, so these numbers are only 75% of the damage that a regular rocket would do, right? But how do we find the damage a regular rocket would actually do? Well, just divide every single damage number by the percentage of the total. In our case, 75% of a regular rocket. The results aren't whole numbers, so we will round them up to the nearest whole value, or ones place. So, 44 divided by 0.75 equals 59. 78 divided by 0.75 equals 104. And 45 divided by 0.75 again equals 60. Adding the results up equals 223. If you look, the first two rockets would have dealt 163 damage to a full health medic, killing them and saving me a rocket. I'm sorry for bringing up math, but that single clip summarizes why the Liberty Launcher is bad compared to any other rocket launcher. However, I actually enjoyed using it, especially with the gunboats. It sounds stupid to call the Liberty Launcher bad, show proof as to why it's bad, then turn around and say I enjoyed it. I know, but hear me out. I see the Liberty Launcher as the perfect rocket launcher to learn Soldier with. Much like people recommend the lock and load for demos who have yet to realize pipe aim is important for being a good demo, the Liberty Launcher is a good way to get familiar with how rockets work. The increased speed of the rocket was helping me practice landing direct hits, so that I could deal maximum damage. The reduced self-damage let me experiment with rocket jumps more. I was feeling like I had more health to lose rocket jumping so I could get into more fights. Soldier felt even more powerful when I could play more aggressively with jumps and dives, even if my damage output per rocket was technically lower. Having to land direct rockets as opposed to mainly relying on splash damage meant that I was improving at one aspect of Soldier, and that felt empowering. Its time to kill is a bit slower than any other rocket launchers, but it felt more reliable when I was landing rockets, which I was starting to get better at. And the reason I paired the Liberty Launcher with the gunboats is because I hate the gunboats. I see you clicking off already. Listen. The roamer soldiers who literally only run original gunboats in escape plan are screaming right now. The gunboats are just for turning off my brain to the team and giving up on playing for that team, trying to put all my value on my rocket launcher alone. Sure, being the annoying soldier who can use an extra rocket jump to get behind or dive a little deeper for a kill can feel good, but that's not always important to the team. Seeing someone use the gunboats, in my opinion, is just a giant red flag that signifies you're here trying to protect your KD and nothing else. I know it's going to sound that way, but I don't want to be mean. Casual is just a wild place. I was shooting myself in the foot using the Liberty Launcher at this time, but I mean, the quality of teammates and opponents can be dramatically different. It's fair to say with over 4,000 hours in the game, that I was maybe a bit better than half the opponents of my matches. I won't talk about my entire experience of Uncletopia in this video, but it was different from how casual plays a lot of the time. There was such a rush of joy playing against more competent players in casual on less than frequent occasions though. There were some games where I would be doing maybe a bit too well and the enemy team would just stack pyros and stick together to try and counter me. Yet this isn't limited to airblasting pyros, which I'll go into full detail in the next video, but an amateur or 2 pyro can still hold down M2 and make a rocket launcher feel useless. And again, I don't want to shame everyone who doesn't play at a level that I would consider a worthy opponent, but I will say that I enjoyed DMing the challenging players in a match more than I did the games where I may have had to carry more. But let's steer on back towards how I was playing the game. As I was using the Liberty Launcher and moving on to the next one, I was playing maybe a bit too fast and loose. You see, the Liberty Launcher was bad and fun, but it was also hindering my overall performance in matches. Looking back from the end of this whole challenge, I think that it would have been a good first rocket launcher to use for these 101 days. Like a true practice and introduction to how rocket launchers feel. However, the airstrike needed to be built up towards. No, not just because of the sort of pub stomp-like snowballing effect from turning a kill streak into a larger clip to burst people down with, but because it actually requires good positioning, targeting, and timing to get the most value out of the increased firing speed in the air. Let's compare these two clips here to explain what I mean. Now in the first clip, I rocket jump onto the top of the stairs, killing the red engineer. However, I can also hear a red sentry both being built and firing with the sound of a level 3's rockets. The better, smarter, and safer play would be to peek the corner and check the location of the sentries and if anyone was nearby. Instead, I jumped without hesitation and didn't even see the sentry being built, which I probably should be targeting because my teammate, another soldier, is using the cow mangler. It's weak against buildings, remember? In the second clip, I've already sat at the top of this stairwell for some time checking what's around me, but I did have to cross this wide open area with a rocket jump, so I know it's not too dangerous to peek. However, someone else had taken the health and ammo kits, so I decided to make an escape with a fast wall jump and try, and succeed, to take the soldier down with me just in case. Both clips are me wagering whether or not if I can peek this potentially dangerous open area of the map, but survive and hurt the enemy. However, the slower vertical jump from the first clip leaves me open to being shot by a sentry potentially, and anyone who aggressively wants to hold that tight choke point. A more experienced soldier probably only would have made the second play because it gave me a route to escape the fight quickly. So yes, I was rocket jumping around recklessly to carpet bomb people with the airstrike, which is extremely fun. I won't lie, blasting away an engineer's buildings from a mile in the air when you've got 7 rockets to rain down on them is something special. It was incredibly useful for overwhelming those nerds trying to air blast, because how the hell do you air blast an entire volley of rockets? When on the ground, the slower firing speed was another story though, but I was jumping aggressively during my time using this bad boy, so it was alright. The airstrike also rewarded my aggression by expanding the amount of rockets you jettison out at some poor soul. But I was also just stupidly jumping in, trying to make riskier plays because of how badly some games with the Liberty Launcher were going. The one thing keeping me alive after recklessly launching all of my rockets was the panic attack. Going back to using a secondary that does damage was extremely useful, because reloading even just 4 rockets take a ton of time. But if I was getting the full 8 rockets, it'd be like reloading an entire sticky bomb launcher. And the panic attack's quick switch speed was useful for pumping out huge amounts of damage quickly if I screwed up any of my rockets. I honestly swapped to my secondary too often because I worried a bit too much that my burst of rockets wouldn't do enough damage. I was already used to having to shoot an extra rocket thanks to using the Liberty Launcher, so having a reliable backup left me feeling the exact opposite of panic. There's not much else to say on it really. It's a consistent, fast shooting, fast switching shotgun. And I love when a weapon is reliable. The airstrike was not that. Again, my fault for playing a bit too fast with it, but I would unload all my rockets in one go usually. Its lower damage and small radius was hard to work with. I had to be snowballing the rockets to really be a threat on the map. So a really reliable weapon that I already had a real relationship with was the direct hit. I'll admit, before starting this challenge, I preferred using the direct hit. I exclusively relied on the ridiculously fast rocket speed to hit anybody I could recklessly flick to. It was powerful against sentries I couldn't break as a demo, and useful for knocking rocket jumping maniacs out of the air.
Look at him scatter. Oh!
But I really was only using it because I couldn't be bothered to really ingrain how rockets moved into my muscle memory. So finally getting to use the direct hit after really trying to learn how Soldier should be played felt like I could finally be truly worthy of using it. But of course, it requires a bit of refinement to my aim to truly be the most terrifying soldier in a match. Because one errant twitch and no one is going kablooey! The rockets have the tiniest amount of splash radius, so landing direct hits, as the name implies, is the only real way to be effective with it. Misses just whiff on by like fighting a scout who has the high ground. The small range of the splash damage exists, but like I said, hitting directs are the only way to actually kill anyone who wants to fight you. But thankfully, I had just played nearly 3 weeks of Soldier, so my aim with rockets was not at all terrible. I'd even argue it was pretty good. Like many soldiers, I was familiar with popping someone up into the air, leaving them unable to really dodge, and then finishing them with a second rocket. I mean, Soldier is known for shooting at the feet like a fiend, instead of using an extra rocket to shoot the floor twice before they can even land. But the direct hits mini crit on explosive jumping targets makes landing the second rocket in the air a death sentence to anyone. And that also includes players hit in the air by explosives, not just those knocked up into the air by my rockets.
Oh, you knocked him into the air and I got the crit off of it.
Quite a few things count as explosive jumping. Rocket jumping, sticky jumping, pipe jumping, and debt jumping, sure, scorch shot too. Now, air shots are deceptively simple. Just point at someone in the air and shoot. Except most of the people who are rocket jumping aren't moving in a straight line directly at your crosshair. They want to either go somewhere or dive bomb someone who won't shoot them out of the air. Punishing soldiers was just the tip of the iceberg using the direct hit. Let's quickly head back to day 19 to see what I really mean.
God, this dude's got an unusual rocket launcher and he is just losing this fucking fight. Oh, rest in peace. Spent $1,000 for no reason. No enemy team.
Oh. I'll duel him and if I win, I get it. That's how it works, right?
That's how it should work.
Yeah, that guy?
Yeah, I was getting cocky while doing good on Soldier, but it was fun. Landing air shots with the direct hit rewarded me with an insane amount of damage, and an extreme spike of dopamine, almost as much as a dog. But air shots are few and far between, unfortunately. They're hard to hit, and the only thing I could do to get better at them was attempting ones that I thought were previously impossible. Like I said, they're one of the most satisfying ways to get a kill in TF2, and that's because of the difficulty in hitting them.
Look at that fucking fans down here.
Oh, I hit the fucking air shot while rocket jumping.
Yeah, that always feels so good.
I didn't kill him though, because he had black box conch.
We'll talk about air shots a bit later on, when I chose my preferred loadout for the rest of the challenge. So back to strictly the direct hit, doing high burst explosive damage isn't just useful for killing, it's also really useful for CCing Ubers. CC, or crowd control with rockets, is exactly what popping someone up into the air before a combo is, controlling someone's movement. And learning with any explosive where to hit someone to mess up their movement is powerful and useful, especially against Ubers in TF2. And I've got to mention that my time using the direct hit was the highlight of this challenge thus far.
Oh, how is he alive? Oh, he died to fall damage. Please die to fall damage, Pyro.
Casual scouts were fodder in my games, and it felt extremely satisfying to punish them for not understanding just how dangerous it was to try and fight me. Not just scouts were in my sights though, the direct hit excelled at DMing and dueling 1v1s, which is where I find the most fun in TF2 actually. It's why my favorite way to play is Hybrid Knight. It just excels at dueling because of its powerful hitting rockets, punishing demos, pyros, heavies, and even other soldiers who can't finish a fight fast enough. I won't go into detail about how badly pyros can counter soldier until the second half of this challenge, but do know that the direct hit is a great way to remove amateur pyros from existence.
Abe Lincoln's a combo pyro.
Real.
Ha-da-ha-da-ha! Translates to, fuck you South people.
Skipping back a bit, it's incredibly powerful against engineers' buildings, and due to no distance fall off on buildings, the rockets technically did more damage to buildings, letting me dodge slower projectiles and tank a few more hits when I was shooting from the other side of the map. Also, I don't know about you, but I frequently had casual games where an enemy engineer would place a new mini down faster than I could break them. But to really help the team out, I had on arguably the best support item in all of TF2. It's first in my heart, but second on this list, the battalion's backup was and is the best backpack to use in casual. Walking around with an extra 20 health doesn't seem like a lot, until you remember I am no longer within range of getting double pipe or two-shot by a soldier after I serve his first rocket. And that's before I could blow the horn and activate its true potential. Complete crit resistance, damage resistance, and resistance to sentries for my teammates and I made this backpack effective for pushing and defending. Just crit resistance alone is powerful in casual, where random crits decide quite a few outcomes in a match. It was a fantastic support tool for when I wanted to push aggressively, letting me take fights I probably would have lost without the aura it gives. But the most comforting part of having the backpack is actually the total removal of critical headshot damage. They are all too common when anyone can play sniper and instantly drop 150 health from your health pool. Here is where I wanted to take a portion of this video dedicated to shit-talking snipers, but instead, let's move on maybe. So, I had used the direct hit in battalions for almost a full week. And I say a full week because for one whole day in the middle of that week, I decided to use the most annoying combo of items for Soldier.
I won't lie, this is the filthiest combination. I will admit it.
It should be apparent why I didn't bring this up sooner, and it's because when you have these two parasites equipped, you can play extremely loose. Hitting people with the black box healed me, even if they weren't direct hits for the full 25 HP. It's still sustain that my opponent doesn't have. And combined with the passive healing from the conch, I could run away and hide to reach full health without wasting one of my 3 rockets to jump to a health kit. Throwing away the practice of landing direct hits and being responsible with my health did not matter if I could regain it all back with just a few rockets. That's not to say I didn't make attempts to still land direct hits, but they also require more effort than smashing the floor with 3 rockets. This combination of black box and conch has to be the most brainless way to play Soldier. I don't care if you're someone who uses this as their main Soldier loadout, I'm making fun of you for nerfing your potential as a player. Take a look at this aggressive peek from the day I used this disgusting combo. It's short, but it gets to the point succinctly. I started off using one of my 3 rockets to jump into the corner of Dust Bowl 3rd. I use my second rocket to hit the soldier, and by the time it hits, my brain fully registers the medic is right there behind the little wall. So I try to land my final rocket right into the cubby to hit the medic with splash, but he actually runs right into it for a direct. But because the black box only has 3 rockets in the clip, my hasty retreat from the sentry makes me reload and try to unsuccessfully hit anyone but myself with a fresh rocket. It was not worth jumping into a fight and hoping one rocket would get me the kill on someone important. So as a black box soldier, the safest way to play was saving rocket jumps until they were absolutely necessary, or I thought I would be completely safe doing so. And in the middle of this challenge, Uncle Dane released a video showcasing this playstyle, and I think he summed it up perfectly.
Ground bound, soldier,
Slam.
the floor is not safe from my rockets, and the ground is not safe from my boots, and the sky is completely clear of me. This is about as high as I'm gonna go in this game, okay?
So yeah, I don't like sacrificing my reliance on rocket jumping for the most annoying soldier loadout to fight against.
Calling for a medic with the black box conchon should actually like sign you up for a, what are they called, like a mental health check.
But there's actually something more annoying about fighting soldier in casual. I mean, it's not just soldier, it's really all explosives, but what I'm talking about is random crits. I wanted to talk about them right at the start, but they don't just happen to the stock rocket launcher. Every single weapon gets them, and it was important to how effective soldier was, specifically in casual. If you've made it this far into the video and don't know what random crits are in TF2, they're a mechanic originally meant to break stalemates and lead to
rare high moments
in gameplay. The problem with them overall though is that they're technically not entirely random, and instead have an increasing chance of happening as you deal more damage and don't get one. Random crits are quick to end 1v1s, and drastically swing duels in and out of my favor. And I don't have to be too descriptive when I tell you how devastating they are against groups of people. I won't give a whole lecture on how random crits work, so if you do want to understand them, you can check out these videos here. I'll leave a link below. And the last thing of note is that melee weapons have an increased chance of crits. They have an increased chance up to 60%. Speaking of melee, let's finally talk what I'll be using while I try to reach the peaks of soldier. Now I find that there are only 2 real melee options for soldier. The first being the disciplinary action, being the supportive tool for helping your teammates get around better, but usually an offensively useless weapon. Meanwhile, the escape plan is, it's exactly as the name implies, an escape plan. All damage to you becomes mini crits, and the lower the health, the faster you can escape. Originally, I thought I would settle on using the escape plan. At the start of this challenge, I knew quite a few soldiers who have been exclusively using it for years. But on day 15 of this challenge, renowned ex-TF2 player and alleged soldier main, Bumper Cars, gifted me an item. More specifically, an unusual disciplinary action.
You will give up your insert item here. You will receive nothing. Thanks. Steam confirmations. Hot is the fire effect. There's 4 effects. Hot, cold, energy, orb, and
On Sergeant Squirter.
excuse me? What the fuck did you just call my mother?
I can't thank him enough, because I enjoyed using it to whip the less experienced players into battle. You can tell they felt more bold when they got even just a tiny boost of speed. Again, it's not at all useful for its damage unless you're getting random crits with it, in which case you can surprise anyone. I learned as soldier it's usually not a good idea to stay up close to anyone for very long in case of dying to random crits myself. Plus, occasionally you get the funny man with a mic on your team who's a little too excited to get whipped. This wonderful gift, which I'm gonna say thank you again for, Bumper, is what I continued using for the rest of this challenge. But Rornir, I hear the little Trollger mains crying out. What about the Market Gardener? Why are you not playing Trollger? Because the title of the video is 101 Days of Soldier, not 101 Days of Trollger. You're on the wrong channel. Listen, I did try Trollger, but I felt that it was more fun to practice rocket jumping on more maps than just High Tower. So as my time going through Soldier's vast array of weapons came to a close, I was finally setting in stone what I'd be using for the remainder of my time in casual. You already know my melee is locked into using my whip, just a good support tool for helping my teammates and I get into position quicker, and for the occasionally funny crit whip kills, because like I said, this is barely a weapon without crits. Now, like I said before, Soldier has some very strong and useful secondaries, so this was a tough choice. Each of the shotguns are useful for consistent damage if I need to pepper someone down without wasting a rocket. They're useful for helping me win fights up close if I don't have enough health to survive my own rocket damage, because even on some of the later days in this challenge, I was forgetting to pay attention to my health. The man-treads, bison, and base jumper aren't really going to help me against anyone with experience in the game. It's why I didn't even bother keeping footage of them really, and I don't want to be a roamer, so the gunboats are off the table as well. Each of the backpacks has its uses, whether it be offensive, defensive, or cowardice, but I think I've made it clear what preferences I have. Items that are useful. It's the battalions. Who am I kidding? This thing is too powerful to not use in casual. The extra health helps in fights, and the ability to give my team a little boost in defense helps when a lot of casual players are afraid to push if they're not overhealed. And finally, the primaries, or my chosen rocket launcher. Every single side grade has its use case. Well, except for the cow mangler, to be honest. But there is only one that I could stick with, and it was the stock rocket launcher. Yes, I know, this loadout doesn't look unique, it's probably not the most common, but it's definitely not rare to see in casual. I chose the stock rocket launcher because of how potent it is at everything. It doesn't fall short in any category. If I need to hit direct rockets, the speed of the rocket is fast enough for close to mid-range to hit reliably. And should I miss, I still have splash damage to reliably hurt somebody, or even multiple people. It's just good, like a stock primary weapon is supposed to be. Plus, it's what I've been using to practice rocket jumping during this first month of the challenge. And I know some people are confused as to why I didn't choose to use the original, for its reliability and centered screen rockets, or heck, even its seemingly easier rocket jumping. And the answer is simple. I wanted to see the number on my newly specialized killstreak rocket launcher go up. That's literally it. When editing videos, killstreak kits actually help with finding where I did well in a match. If I could have afforded a strange original, I might have used that, but it's nothing I could really change. So after shuffling through the soldiers' equips, let's just continue on to what I had been doing this quarter of the challenge. Without having to worry about learning the different speeds of rockets, I was now having to get used to slower rockets compared to the direct hit I had been using for a week. I wasn't the perfect soldier player, of course, but during this time, I was taking fights I honestly had no business winning. Fighting with soldiers who have pocket medics and winning left me with such a strong sense of pride and accomplishment. But sometimes, when the fight wasn't going in my favor, the best thing I could do was just rocket jump away. Learning when and where to jump and surf damage when trying to escape is incredibly useful for soldiers who want to live for another fight. It's why roamers are so annoying to deal with. And compared to the start of this challenge, I was already getting pretty good at learning what type of jump was necessary to live to see another fight. Whether it was wall jumping and staying low to avoid a sniper, or risking a high jump to land near some health. Overall, my rocket jumping improved since the start of this challenge. I was trying out new things during matches I previously overlooked and was finding some use. And being able to jump to sneaky positions had me always being the only one able to kill snipers. Sometimes being the only one able to jump deep and pick off a target that the rest of my team couldn't reach. I may have started to call out med picks more often than not as well. Med dead. But it was for good reason. My rocket jump practice was paying off. Just half an hour to an hour every night, and I was feeling more comfortable airstrafing a soldier than before. And I was going to continue practicing on the server. However, some of the jumps started getting less relevant to the maps I was playing on. These jumps were starting to become just for show on this map only. I'm pretty sure the number of people out here sinking rockets like this in a real match can fit on one hand. And that's if they're not dying in the middle of the jump thanks to their enemies shooting them down. So I stopped practicing on community servers and began just practicing on actual maps alone. I would load up an empty map, go to a rollout spot, use these console commands, and get to practicing until I finish the jump at least once. I actually don't recommend this unless you're serious about Soldier, because it was a bit maddening. Doing anything repeatedly for long periods of time can do that to you. By this point in casual, I was feeling on top of the world though. Maybe it was just the energy in some of my games, but it genuinely felt like the vibe in casual was perfect.
I just watched H-Bomber's guy's video on plagiarism. I'm feeling like I'm manipulating people right now.
When you were fighting in the Iraq War, did you have a picture of Tracer in your pocket? I'm gonna be your one thing, cheese.
Now, I won't go into detail about fighting every Merc as Soldier, but I think I do have to bring up this one. As you know, Soldier v Soldier is a common matchup during a round of TF2. There's always at least one soldier on each team at a time, let's be real here. And what I had realized after my first month of playing Soldier was that the high ground was actually such an important factor in this matchup. Soldier's rockets are projectiles. So dueling another soldier is extremely hard if you can't hit your opponent, which is harder to do from the low ground. Rockets end up just whizzing on by doing no damage. Meanwhile, if shooting rockets down on someone, splash damage will be helping win the fight if not with directs. It's why you see so many soldiers rocket jump to meet and match the level of ground they're fighting on. At first, I didn't really understand it. I mean, come on, just hit the air shot. But being able to manage my health and jump above the enemy soldier was important for keeping map control away from them. And my continuous learning and understanding of how my rockets worked made kills like this possible. It helped that my years of built-up game sense allowed me to also predict how people would move in a fight, which was especially useful to take back map control from those pesky roamers. But the best way to take map control as Soldier just might be pairing me with an Uber effect. I mean, I didn't highlight near the start of this video, but it took me 5 days to find a medic who would willingly give me Uber, and it was actually crits. So taking ground and breaking stalemates with Ubers rather than
Rare high moments
was essential for the part of the challenge still ahead. But on the rare occasions that I did actually get them, it was a fun time. Especially with the crits crate, because having on-demand 270 damage rockets just fed my ego during this part of the challenge.
Random
We're
sticky
talking,
shot on
man.
accident killed the spy.
Just a couple of rockets could fill my battalions and help further push my team forwards. And an effective technique I wasn't doing and subconsciously learned from just getting more Ubers was rocket jumping during those few seconds of overwhelming power. It seems like something not worth bringing up, until you realize a walking soldier has the second slowest ground speed, only faster than heavy. So using a rocket jump to get into a better position to kill a portion of the team for the cost of another rocket is insanely powerful compared to slowly trying to walk over or only hitting low damage, long range rockets. Learning that especially came in clutch on some more open and vertical parts of maps. I mean, the rocket launcher excels in an enclosed space. My opponents didn't really have too much room to outmaneuver my rockets. And even when they could try to throw off my aim, these 50 days were foundational to my judgment of how my rockets would fly through the air at my favorable distances. But learning how to be a better soldier also included knowing how myself and my rockets could move around the more open parts of a map. Sometimes on these more open maps, I could just escape if losing a fight, or use that understanding to pick fights I would have recklessly gotten myself into previously. But like I mentioned earlier about my built-up game sense, it's about knowing how my rockets move versus how people will move if I was targeting someone out of my preferred medium to close range. Because a good player will have experience of winning and losing against someone who has done the same thing before. Whether that be being the aggressor and capitalizing on that surprise, or knowing when to take advantage of someone's mistakes, like a poorly timed rocket jump or air blast, that led me to coming out on top of the fight. And learning something as fundamental as that was important for becoming a better soldier. So after 50 days of dedicating myself to Soldier, Casual was officially my stomping ground. My vast amount of playtime led to increasing my ability to hit direct rockets with much less effort, leading to much less effort needed to get quick kills. If a medic found me worthy of their Uber charge, it was safe to say I was a huge force in changing the outcome of the match. I was able to raise my ability to rocket jump to at least amateur, capable of doing simple, short rollouts on the more commonly played maps. But this was just the first half of my journey to becoming a Soldier main. Practicing and playing Soldier in Casual was only done to prepare me for the real challenge ahead. I thought I was prepared for all that Uncletopia could throw at me, but you'll have to wait and find out how ready I really was in the second part of my journey. Before I sign off here and begin working on the second part of the video, I want to say thank you for watching this part of my journey into learning how to become a better soldier. An extra special thank you to all those kind people who sat with me during some frustrating matches on stream, especially at the beginning of this challenge. I will continue to work on the second part of this video and try to have it out as soon as possible, but I've also got another 2 hours of raw clips and quite a few journal notes to write for. I hope everyone had a fine end of the year experience and also New Year as per the time of me recording this. I hope to see you in the next one where you could finally hear how my journey progressed and my thoughts at the end of this entire 101 days. Peace out.